Ash observed Caliban, pondering what his intentions truly were. He noticed, via the Black Queen interface Damon was utilizing, that further options would become available if Damon eliminated 3 additional adversaries. Ash had initially mistaken these as mere extra choices, now realizing the question marks signified hidden functionalities. He expressed concern that a failure to learn this could have led to adverse consequences for Damon. He also commented on how the Black Queen had seemed excessively powerful for the current stage of the game, suggesting Damon use it 3 more times before ceasing. Caliban then inquired if Ash intended to proceed with something. Ash sought clarification, and Caliban explained that Selene's Mona core possessed the ability to craft and enhance equipment, asking if Ash wished to create something. After a moment of thought, Ash initially declined but swiftly changed his mind, instructing Caliban to forge it. He reasoned that the Black Queen was a potent game-changer capable of altering battle outcomes. If it was a weapon of comparable rank, it should be crafted immediately, with any repercussions considered later. At the very least, he believed it was worth wielding until all its hidden options were unlocked. Caliban acknowledged Ash's sound judgment, emphasizing the importance of controlling the weapon rather than being controlled by it. He added that if one lacked such mastery, they would never have been able to wield the Nightmare Slayer in the first place. When Ash asked for an explanation, Caliban elaborated, stating that if he had managed to handle the Nightmare Slayer up until now, even after it had consumed enough blood and fully awakened, he would be perfectly capable of managing this new weapon. He clarified that all weapons are inherently dangerous, responsible for taking lives, which is obvious. The Nightmare Slayer simply offered more power at the cost of being slightly more perilous, and Ash should view it as an additional blade. Concluding his brief discourse, Caliban asked what type of weapon Ash desired to be crafted from the core. Ash stated the decision was made from the outset. Just as Damon received the Black Queen, the weapon from Selene's core should logically go to the specialist who vanquished Selene. He specified a need for something a mage could utilize. That evening, in his room, Ash prepared to examine the reward chests obtained from Stage 5, which were spread out before him. He reflected that they felt like parting gifts from the fallen, which had initially made him hesitant to open them. However, he concluded that if they were indeed such gifts, it provided even greater reason to inspect their contents, as they were spoils gained through lives lost and deserved to be treated with respect. A purple radiance filled his room as he began to acquire a significant amount of SR-grade equipment. 3 specific pieces lay before him, along with 2 small orbs. Ash was momentarily overwhelmed with excitement but quickly composed himself to inspect the items. He identified the Secret of Dawn set, a first-tier assassin's equipment. He was astounded to have received the entire set, noting that when fully equipped, it rendered the user undetectable for 10 seconds after each enemy kill, though this effect could only activate once every 10 minutes. He questioned how he had obtained the complete set rather than just individual parts. He remarked that this mirrored his earlier acquisition of the Scream set, wondering if a system update was now ensuring complete set drops. He looked down at the gloves, feeling a hint of suspicion about receiving everything at once, but ultimately concluded that anything beneficial was welcome. Next, he uncovered an SSR artifact called From the Start Again, another complete and incredibly rare item from the chest. He explained that the artifact's effect perfectly matched its name. Once per defensive battle, any enemies reflected in its golden plate were forcibly teleported back to the beginning of the wave. He mused that if it could send them back into the Dark Lake, it would be an incredibly broken item. The golden plate wasn't large enough to repel vast numbers, but it was undoubtedly an excellent artifact. In the game, it hadn't been considered resource efficient or cost effective, but a free acquisition was a blessing, and he intended to use it effectively. In the end, only 3 SSR chests remained, which he viewed as the grand finale of his unboxing session. He opened the first one, wishing for a complete item, and was surprised by what he found, a piece of the Great Commander's flag. This was revealed to be Ash's personal equipment, one of 5 pieces that, when gathered, would combine into a single item. Ash couldn't believe it was his personal gear but expressed frustration that it was only 1 piece out of 5. His status window now tracked his progress for this item. While he appreciated having personal equipment, he questioned how he was expected to find the remaining 4 pieces purely by luck. Most personal equipment in the game was linked to a character's specific story, providing clear farming locations, but Ash, as a good-for-nothing character, had to rely entirely on chance. Ash decided to set that thought aside for later and open the next chest, again hoping for a complete item. He discovered an invisibility cloak. When equipped, if the user was undetected by enemies, it would place them in a level 3 stealth state. This stealth could be exposed by high-level detection magic, and if broken, all enemies within 15 meters would immediately target the user. The cloak had a durability of 3. He noted he had never encountered this item before and that it seemed more suited for everyday use. Given its variable nature, he decided it would be best to test it first. He then moved to the final chest, sighing and hoping this one would be better than the rest. The chest began to emit an incredibly bright light, illuminating his room as if the sun had appeared. Ash shrieked in excitement, proclaiming that he had actually obtained it, the Karma Eater. The Karma Eater was described as impressive, designed for someone who pursued moderation, balancing light and dark, chaos and order. It devoured anything that had fallen too far to one side and converted it into power. Its sword aura was generated by expending disposition points, which would multiply the weapon's magic damage by 2. If the disposition points reached 0, the aura could not be used. He elaborated that in the game, the Karma Eater was primarily used not as a weapon, but to rectify characters who had adopted the wrong disposition, such as a paladin who had succumbed to negative traits and fallen to the dark side, or a necromancer who had been blessed and become full of light. As players progressed, they sometimes encountered these doomed characters, but with the Karma Eater, one could regulate their undesirable stats. He spoke of human dispositional traits like beastify and sanctify, paths that involved either abandoning humanity to become a beast or achieving excessive holiness to ascend. He intended to use it to control stats regardless, expressing that its appearance was perfect because now, with the Karma Eater, he would reduce Lucas's beastify levels and ensure he never used that power again. He acknowledged the uncertainty of the future for this battlefront but affirmed he would make good use of the item, ensuring that the hard work and lives sacrificed would not be in vain. The following day, Ash stood on the castle wall, explaining his decision not to embark on free exploration before the next defense. The wounds from the previous battle had not yet fully healed, broken equipment remained unrepaired, and they concluded that further exploration with the limited time remaining would be an excessive burden. The current plan was to ensure all party members rested, repair damaged equipment, order new gear, and reinforce the walls and artifacts. A 4-day time skip occurred, bringing them to the Crossroad Temple. Lucas approached Ash, who inquired about the situation. Lucas reported that he had thoroughly searched every inch of the temple, but aside from the goddess statue, nothing else was being used for spying. Ash understood and asked about Marita. Lucas stated that after that incident, Marita had remained in the priest's office, and he had kept a close watch on her. She hadn't done anything overtly suspicious, but there was something peculiar. Ash asked what it was, and Lucas revealed that Marita kept drinking alcohol and muttering phrases like, "Why does her life have to be like this?" A scene then depicted Marita in her room, absolutely intoxicated, downing drinks. A little later, Ash presented Lucas with a gift. Lucas expressed surprise at receiving another sword, having just acquired the Star Silver one, and promised to use it effectively. Ash explained that this sword would help calm Lucas's beastify tendencies, advising him not to indulge in that power again, as he was already strong enough without it. Lucas disagreed, asserting his need to grow even stronger to protect his lord and his willingness to do whatever was necessary. Ash tapped Lucas's chestplate, remarking that there were other ways to gain strength, but he desired Lucas to pursue a more righteous path, even if it was slower. He appreciated Lucas's dedication to protecting him but did not wish for Lucas to sacrifice himself for it, asking for a promise. Lucas, surprised, bowed and vowed to engrave Ash's words into his soul. Damien then arrived, and Lucas explained that Damien had assisted him for the past 3 days, making the search significantly easier thanks to his keen eyesight. Damien expressed his desire to demonstrate that the temple was a sacred and virtuous place, lamenting what happened to Marita but highlighting the other priests' diligent efforts in healing wounded soldiers. Damien began to speak further, but Ash interrupted, handing Damien a gift, equipment that would conceal him each time he eliminated an enemy, instructing him to use it well. It was revealed to be the invisibility cloak. Damien was surprised, questioning if he was truly permitted to use such a valuable item. Ash confirmed, asserting that Damien was a cheat character and deserved the finest equipment available. Following this, Ash also disclosed the truth about the Black Queen, instructing Damien to use it only 3 more times, after which it would be prohibited. Damien acknowledged the instruction. Ash commented that had he known Damien would appreciate it so much, he would have provided him with defensive equipment sooner. Regardless, it was now time for Ash to visit Marita in her office. Wine bottles and half-smoked cigars lay scattered on the floor. Marita lamented that her sole desire had been to heal injured people, believing it was the purpose for which the goddess had bestowed her healing powers. Ash observed her lying on the floor as she continued, sobbing, that the Grand Temple had suddenly promoted her to head priest and assigned her to this crossroad. She had arrived to heal, but they had forced her into espionage. Then, she was abruptly compelled to fight monsters on the fort wall. Ash called out to her, but she continued to sob, expressing her anger that she had been caught spying and everyone now regarded her with suspicion. She furiously declared she could no longer endure this shit, calling everyone from Central bastards. Ash urged her to calm down. She retorted that she no longer even wanted to be a priest, kicking her arms and legs and declaring she quit and wanted to be fired. Ash grasped her arm, pulling her up, telling her she needed to calm down and listen, as they now had to cooperate. She pushed him away, dismissing his words and assuming he would just reassign her to the fort wall, stating that monsters were terrifying. Ash clarified that he wanted to discuss the monsters later and urged her to consider her situation. She had been caught spying, and her communication method had been discovered. If anything, the Grand Temple and secret forces were in disarray, and the entire priest spy network across the continent was under intense scrutiny. The secret forces could potentially dismantle the entire network they had established. Marita was utterly shocked, realizing she hadn't considered this. Ash emphasized that this predicament was a direct result of his actions in catching her, asking if the secret forces would truly let her off the hook. She asked what would happen to her now. Ash stated that in the worst-case scenario, she would disappear without a trace, informing her that they were now in the exact same boat. The narrative notes that poor Marita was being deceived. She collapsed to the floor, and Ash continued, stating that given the circumstances, he wanted her to fully join his side. She should no longer work for Central or the Grand Temple, but for him, the Third Prince. He promised to ensure her safety, as he always took care of his people. Marita wept even more profusely. Ash asked for her thoughts. She tearfully responded that she had no other option. Ash reflected that she had always been his primary healer in the game, and while they had faced some challenges, he eagerly anticipated working with her again. Having resolved much of the internal issues, they continued their preparations for the defensive battle. Time passed quickly, marked by another 4-day skip, bringing them to the morning of the defense battle. Ash surveyed the battlefield, noting that despite a week of preparation, it hadn't been sufficient. Many still bore minor injuries, requested equipment was still being processed, and the fort wall repairs remained incomplete. A scout spotted something, alerting them to the approaching monsters. Ash inquired about reinforcements from the capital. Lucas reported no news. Ash remarked that regardless of the reinforcement size, if they traveled overland, a northern scout would have spotted them, yet there was still no sign. He grew infuriated, blaming those Central bastards and his brother, wondering if his brother had lied about the reinforcements or intended to sabotage him. Wyverns were described as half-dragons, degraded but still descendants of dragons, possessing high magic defense, the ability to shoot fireballs, flight, and ranged attacks, a formidable triple threat. Leading them were 30 flame wyverns, significantly larger than the others, serving as tanks, capable of swallowing and absorbing fire and explosive attacks. At the center of the army stood the 3-headed dragon, Trisula, 10 levels higher than the flame wyverns and the strongest of all wyverns. On their side, their firepower was halved due to the Stage 5 battle. Despite their repair efforts, they couldn't restore it to full capacity. Ash gazed at the approaching swarm, acknowledging they were completely screwed but had no choice but to do everything in their power. He commanded his men to ready the cannons. As the wyverns drew closer, they screeched, flying directly towards the fort. Ash raised his fist and bellowed for all soldiers to fire. Above him, a colossal warship floated in the sky. Ash was utterly astonished as he looked up. The ship began raining fire down, bombarding the wyverns with its cannons, flying directly into their formation. This scene, the narrator noted, gave him chills. Wyvern corpses started plummeting from the sky, and Ash was speechless. Lucas identified it as an airship, and Ash expressed his surprise that they had actually arrived. Lucas explained that it was constructed with ancient magic, with only a few such ships remaining across the continent. The central airship, he specified, was the Imperial ship Alcatraz. The Alcatraz began to open its bottom hatch, and an individual started descending. A giant speaker blared a message from the Imperial airship Alcatraz. Juju looked surprised as a woman, Reyna Windle, Commander-in-Chief of the Imperial Magic Corps from the independent Imperial unit, introduced herself. She declared that they had arrived under orders to reinforce the eradication of monsters on the southern front. For the next 5 defensive battles, command of these reinforcements would fall to the Third Prince. She then instructed Ash to issue his command. This was the woman who had served with Jupiter. Ash, assessing the situation, gave his immediate command: "Wipe those bastards out." Reyna responded, as he commands, then announced that Anchor 1 and Anchor 2 would temporarily withdraw from the field. They acknowledged. 2 more airships floated away to the sides. A group emerged onto the decks, beginning to channel mana. Anda, positioned at the front, prepared a spell. A green aura swirled before her, growing intensely until she unleashed 3 colossal tornadoes from her hands, ripping through the wyverns as if they were made of cardboard. Juju expressed surprise, marveling at the ridiculous combined power of 5 wind mages. Ash commented that even if the monsters possessed high magic defense, it was irrelevant when their opponents commanded such overwhelming firepower. The tornadoes gradually slowed and dissipated. The Trisulas were now advancing. Reyna stated that only the large ones remained, and as expected of dragon types, they had survived the tornadoes. She commanded Anchor 1 and Anchor 2 to return to the field, and they pulled back up beside her. She announced they would finish off the remaining monsters, and the main ship would also open fire. They all ramped up their cannon fire, unleashing an endless barrage, showcasing the Imperial army's truly immense firepower. The Wyvern army came to a complete halt, as if striking a wall of explosions. Ash was in disbelief, having requested reinforcements, but this force possessed enough power to conquer this entire area and everything around it. He didn't know the precise structure of the Imperial army but was aware that these airships and mages represented the Empire's top-tier weapons, even in the capital. Ash inquired of Lucas if he knew Reyna. Lucas confirmed, stating she was a mage renowned as Windblade, the public face of the Imperial Magic Corps. He had heard she stepped down from the front lines after the Magic Corps' direct transfer from the army to the Imperial family. Ash questioned if her current display of power suggested someone who had been away from battle, wondering if she had been engaged in clandestine activities, given the suspicious dealings within the Imperial family. He then asked Juju what was amiss, noting her prolonged strange behavior. Juju replied it was nothing, merely observing the absurd persistence of human fate. Ash asked if she knew Reyna. Juju admitted to knowing her just a little bit, emphasizing the very little. Trisula's corpse was then shown on the ground, shattered into pieces. With this, Stage 6 was cleared in literally no time at all. Thankfully, no one had to perish in this engagement. The airship slowly began to descend onto the front lines. Ash and his men stepped out to greet them. The main ship lowered its ramp, and as the Imperial forces marched out, Reyna approached Ash. She greeted him again, expressing her honor to meet him, and Ash reciprocated. He then remarked that the scale of the reinforcements was far greater than he had anticipated, inquiring if the Imperial court had always been so generous. She smiled, clarifying that these individuals were not reinforcements. The official Imperial family reinforcements comprised 5 officers, including herself, and 50 soldiers. Ash asked about the purpose of her other companions. She smiled again, stating he already knew. His Imperial Majesty had commanded his immediate return to the capital, New Terra. These individuals were dispatched to escort him back safely, and the Alcatraz itself was sent for that very reason. Ash was curious why his father had summoned him, asking if she knew the reason. She replied that His Majesty simply missed his son, implying no other motive. Ash countered that he had been living in seclusion in that palace and wondered if his father truly summoned him or if someone else in the palace had used his father's name to issue the summons. She claimed to be a mere dumb soldier who only followed given commands and did not possess such knowledge. She then urged Ash to step aboard, assuring him that travel on the Alcatraz was exceptionally comfortable. Ash pondered, and she sensed his hesitation. She advanced, asking if he could possibly be considering defying his Imperial summons, inquiring if she was mistaken. The party members realized the gravity of the situation and readied their weapons, every single one of them, even Damien gripping his weapon. Reyna's soldiers began to advance, creating a tense standoff, with everyone prepared to engage. Even the soldiers had their cannons aimed. Reyna looked down at Ash, stating it must cause His Imperial Majesty deep pain that his beloved young prince would not obey his orders. The battlefield fell into complete silence. Reyna then stated there was no need for conflict, they were simply soldiers sent to escort him safely back to the capital, with no intention of harm. If they had harbored ill intentions, she argued, they would have incinerated the fort from the airship, leaving its defenders helpless and already reduced to ashes. She asserted that they were on his side, both being citizens of the same empire and serving the same emperor. She urged him to instruct his subordinates to lower their weapons and accompany her to the capital under His Majesty's command, as problems within the Imperial court should be resolved there. Ash sighed, telling Lucas to put his weapon down and for everyone else to step back. Gugu and Damien complied. Reyna then yelled at her men to do the same, chastising their insolent behavior towards His Highness. Her knights sheathed their blades, and the soldiers lowered their weapons. Ash conceded that she was correct. If his father wished to see his adorable son, there was no reason to refuse. She agreed. Ash stated he would go to the capital, but requested one day. He explained that he was still the commander of the Southern Front, and his sudden disappearance would significantly impact its management. He wished to at least leave behind some orders and make arrangements, asking if this was permissible. He believed his father would at least allow him this much. She replied that she saw no reason why they couldn't wait a day, and they would depart tomorrow at noon. He thanked her, then headed back to his estate. He informed everyone that because his brother had mentioned seeing him soon, he had expected to be forcibly tied up and taken back. Thankfully, it hadn't come to that point, and at least an airship had been sent for his transport, remarking that it was pleasant to be of royalty. He advised them not to worry too much, as Reyna herself had stated that if they had intended to kill him, they would have already done so. He also had many questions for Fernandez once he met him. He would have eventually gone to the capital anyway, so he might as well travel there comfortably by airship. Lucas inquired if Ash would truly be alright on his own, suggesting he should accompany him. Ash replied that a prince traveling by airship to the capital did not require a bodyguard at this stage. A bodyguard would not alter his destiny. If the emperor wished him to live, he would, and if he wished him to die, he would. More importantly, he could not weaken their forces here. He then informed them that while he was gone, he would assign each of them a specific task. First, Lucas would fulfill tasks as a proxy commander. Ash trusted him, knowing he was familiar with all the necessary duties. Lucas was the main character and had originally been intended to be the commander here, so he would perform well even in Ash's absence. No one else could assume this role. The reinforcements consisted of 5 officers, including Reyna, and 50 soldiers. Though their numbers were not vast, they were the elite, and if utilized effectively, they would easily manage the defensive battles. Lucas would be quite capable. Lucas appeared overwhelmed, stating he understood and would do his best not to cause Ash further worry, adopting a puppy dog face. Next, it was Evangeline's turn, and she seemed very excited about her role. Ash instructed her to assist Lucas, as she was the heir to the front count position. Crossroad would be her land in the future, and it would be beneficial for her to become acquainted with the commander's responsibilities. She affirmed his trust, promising to handle the whining Lucas. Her eyes then brightened as she requested that when he went to the capital, he buy her a gift set from a small dessert shop near the Imperial Academy dorms, recalling how delightful it was after her graduation. Ash could hardly believe she was sending a prince on errands. He then addressed both Damien and Juju. Damien, with his keen eyesight, was tasked with monitoring the new reinforcements and reporting anything suspicious to Lucas. Juju, being a powerful mage, needed to be wary of Reyna. If Reyna began to scheme, Juju was the only one who could stop her. Juju confirmed she had already been considering keeping a close watch on Reyna. He then instructed Lily that while he was gone, she should join the main party and support Juju. Lily agreed. Ash noted that Lily had appeared quite depressed after they exposed the spies last time, but he currently lacked the time to address such matters. He then organized the main party, showing its configuration. He told Godin and the rest that they needed to complete the mission he had assigned them earlier, asking if they were capable. A flashback showed Ash assigning them a brutal mission, acknowledging it wouldn't be easy but was necessary to pave the way for their future. Godin pledged to risk his life for success, and Ash wished him luck. Finally, it was Merita's turn. She looked profoundly depressed in the corner. Ash instructed her to participate in each defense battle with the party but to remain away from the front lines and focus solely on healing. He noted her rough appearance and expressed hope that her mental state would reset. He reflected that his role here had been immense, by systematically delegating parts of his job and leaving behind guideline documents for the future. Time had passed quickly. Adar was then shown diligently working at a desk. Ash considered the secret mission Godin received from Fernandez to closely observe the Lord Secretary Adar. He wondered how much Fernandez knew about his identity, and even more, what Adar's true identity was. Adar had referred to himself as the director, and thus somewhat a god of this place, but what exactly did a director entail? Adar had requested him to reach the true ending in this world, yet had not provided any information on what that ending was or how to achieve it, merely observing from the sidelines. Ash himself was too preoccupied with fighting for his life in each battle to even contemplate the true ending. He questioned Adar's ultimate goal and hoped to learn more about it when he met Fernandez. He called out to Adar, who responded. Ash directly asked if Adar was on his side. Adar affirmed, stating he was entirely aligned with Ash, clarifying that it was more accurate to say he was going all in on him, implying they shared the same destiny. Ash reflected on this, then apologized to Adar, stating he didn't truly care about the true ending. Whatever fate this world faced, his sole desire was to protect his people. As he walked back to his room, he yawned, and Lucas remarked on his hard work that day. Ash then stated he had something to ask Lucas while they were alone. Lucas asked what he meant, and Ash replied that he knew that he and the original Ash were not the same person at all. Lucas appeared slightly surprised. Ash stated that Lucas surely knew from the very beginning, asking for confirmation. Ash reminded Lucas that Lucas had been Ash's personal bodyguard since Ash was very young. Then, he had randomly possessed Ash's body. At the very least, Ash's actions, words, and even his subtle mannerisms would have changed. Yet, Lucas had never questioned him and continued to remain by his side. Because Lucas had displayed such unwavering loyalty, Ash had also overlooked the issue. They had formed an unspoken agreement that there was no need to disrupt their current relationship. However, now he was leaving for the capital and knew nothing about Ash's family or his original personality. This was why he decided to be completely honest with Lucas, to ask him about Ash's original personality and relationships. But Lucas insisted, the Lord is unmistakably the same person he served his entire life, still repeating the same sentiment. Ash wondered why Lucas was pretending he still didn't know. Lucas then said that he had informed him in advance that day. Ash asked what he was referring to. Lucas recounted that at the forward base, when they were surrounded by black spiders on the second night, Ash had summoned him and said, "Tomorrow I'm going to start acting like a different person, but even if that happens, no matter what I look like or what I do, I am still me. I'll still be the Prince Ash you served your entire life, and I can't change. Just like now, you need to keep supporting me." Lucas remembered that Ash's eyes had looked dead at that time. Lucas added that he hadn't understood Ash then, but the next day, Ash's actions became entirely different, as if he were a different person. However, because Ash had given him prior notice, Lucas's loyalty remained steadfast. Ash was surprised, realizing this meant the original Ash had known he would possess his body. He wondered how the original Ash knew and, more importantly, why he allowed it to happen. Lucas asked if Ash had anything else to say. Ash considered revealing that he was a gamer from another world, but decided Lucas would not understand. He chose to adhere to the original Ash's narrative and claim that after that day, he had lost all his memories and had simply been acting like a prince to suit his circumstances. Lucas commented that it was no wonder there were times Ash lacked common sense, and he had been puzzling over the reason. However, he then asked how Ash had become so knowledgeable about monsters and dungeons. Ash fabricated a complete lie, stating that in exchange for losing his memories, he had regained an instinctive knowledge of fighting monsters, perhaps through some special method before his amnesia. Lucas accepted this explanation. Ash noted that even as he spoke, it sounded unbelievable, and Lucas trusted him too much. Ash then asked for Lucas's help. He needed to learn about Ash's original relationships and habits from his time in the capital. Lucas readily agreed to teach him immediately, noting their limited time before departure necessitated a rapid instruction. Ash mused that, for better or worse, his original personality had been dreadful, fluctuating daily with his mood, exhibiting numerous swings. Some days he would be as kind and warm as a saint, other days he would act like a crazy rabid dog. Thanks to this, even if his current personality differed, it wouldn't raise suspicion that he was someone else. Lucas then instructed him to tilt his head back for a moment, demonstrating the angle the original Ash would always maintain, keeping his eyes perpetually looking down at whomever he addressed. Ash looked in a mirror, questioning if the original Ash had truly been mental for looking at people in such a manner. Lucas continued, explaining that Ash's family history was complicated and too extensive to cover completely. He would instead explain Ash's relationships with the key members of the Imperial court. His default demeanor was that of a troublemaker, akin to a neglected, spoiled royal brat, so the higher-ups generally didn't pay him much mind, or rather, they simply disliked him. The Emperor would sometimes speak with him privately, and Lucas had not been present, so he didn't know the nature of their relationship. However, the original Ash had always displayed fear of the Lord, showing it whenever summoned and even afterwards. Ash noted that even the great Ash was afraid of the Emperor, suggesting the Emperor must be a truly terrifying individual. Lucas believed this summarized their talk, then remembered another very important person. He stated he would not disclose much about this individual because even with prior knowledge, Ash would have to endure it in the same manner, and he would understand it beforehand. He likened this person to a natural disaster that one cannot prepare for. Ash, wary of natural disasters, asked for at least a hint. Lucas cleared his throat and revealed, in the capital, he has a fiancée. Ash was completely surprised, yelling, "Is he serious?" The next day, Ash made his way to the Alcatraz, where Reyna and the others awaited. As he approached the ship, all the soldiers collectively wished him safe travels and saluted him, forming a line along the entire fort wall. Ash smiled, finding it unbelievable they were performing such gestures without being asked. Reyna inquired if his preparations were complete. Ash replied that technically, yes. While he was gone, his knight Lucas MacGregor would serve as the acting commander, and he expected Reyna's full cooperation as a reinforcement. She affirmed, promising maximum cooperation. He stated he would count on it, adding that if she attempted any funny tricks, he would kill her, so she should simply focus on her duty of eliminating monsters. She glared at him. He reiterated, asking if she understood. She replied that she did, and instructed him to board, assuring him they would transport him safely to the capital. As he boarded, he looked back at his party members and promised to bring back delicious treats. They all smiled, offering him a different kind of send-off. He told them he would return, and the ramp began to close as the ship activated. It lifted off the ground, leaving the crossroads behind, and they all watched as it ascended into the sky. Each of them bore a different expression. Lily still looked depressed, Evangeline seemed happy, Juju and Damien appeared content, and Lucas remained worried. They continued to watch until the airship became a tiny speck and vanished from sight. Ash reflected that he was leaving this place, his estate, for the very first time since he had arrived in this world. His hand trembled as he admitted his nervousness about the entire ordeal, going to the capital, meeting the Emperor, confronting his brother, recruiting other key figures, and the revelation of having a fiancée. He gazed at the sky, observing that the airship continued to fly at maximum speed towards the north, carrying him to an unknown destination. With this, Stage 6 was cleared. The MVP was, of course, Reyna. This marked the conclusion of Season 1. So guys, Season 2 will be released from May 25th. I'll be covering all of it. Hope you guys watch all the parts, and don't forget to like and subscribe.